Welcome to the first episode of Saturn Sirens. I'm Chase and this is Mary. And
Hi
today we
guys.
we don't have microphones, but we're just using our phones. I have a microphone. We both have microphones, but Mary's isn't working, so I'm not using mine either in solidarity. So hopefully the audio isn't too low quality for you, but we're just going to talk about we got what got us into astrology and kind of like our background and just have a laid back first episode so you guys can get to know us first before we dive into more serious matters. But Mary's going to go first and explain her story about how she got into astrology.
Hi guys, I'm Mary and I'm an astrologer. I've been studying astrology for 8 years and I got into astrology when I was going through my Saturn return actually, which usually happens between the age of 27 to 31. So here I am, this 27-year-old who just got divorced and I was feeling pretty hopeless and I started kind of researching astrology out of nowhere. I developed this huge obsession with it and basically studied it like 18 hours a day for the last 8 years. And I'm now an astrologer. So, yeah, me and Chase met on TikTok. I actually did a reading for her, and we've been friends ever since. So we've been having some pretty interesting conversations about astrology, and thought we should just do a podcast and share our conversations with you guys. So here we are.
Yeah, we do have really fun conversations, but I actually just got into astrology in January, and I grew up very religious, and I was always, for the last few years, very interested in the concept of astrology, and I thought there was something there to it, but I just felt like obligated not to look into it because of just the connotations of it almost being viewed as like a false religion and something that would be frowned upon by
Yeah, I feel like there's
myself.
so much stigma out there about astrology and it being against religion when the birth of Jesus was literally predicted from a star. So I don't get
Right.
that.
Right. So, I mean, I get their process because I felt the same way before. I actually have been educated on astrology, but there are things that astrology is associated with that I don't really get into, like tarot card readings and psychics and stuff like that, which they're not the same thing. I get that there are people who are into astrology who are also into those things, and that's great for them, but it doesn't have to be, you don't have to be into all those things to be into astrology.
Yeah, definitely. And I feel like it all kind of gets lumped together, but astrology is way more scientific. Obviously, it's based on astronomy and where the planets and the stars are in the sky. And basically, the way it works is we're all affected by the planets. Just like we're affected by the sun, which we know that's backed by science, and just like the moon controls the tides in the ocean, it also controls our emotions as humans because we're mostly made up of water. So basically, astrology is definitely real. And not only is it real, it can really help people understand their inner workings and their psychological nature. So I believe that it's very powerful. I also grew up religious, just like Chase. And I kind of felt no hesitation, though, getting into astrology, just because I guess I'm an Aquarius and we naturally like to rebel. That's pretty much what we're here for. So, yeah, I basically, felt drawn to it. And looking back, it kind of makes sense as to why I felt drawn to it because astrology is ruled by Aquarius and by Uranus. So we both kind of share this mutual significance with Saturn because she's a Capricorn and I'm an Aquarius. So we're both Saturn ruled. And that's why we decided to call this Saturn Sirens. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
But yeah, so over the years, I noticed that I only had two real relationships from the time I was 18 to 28, and they were very similar, and they were both with Leos. And I thought that was really, really weird. And I just couldn't shake it. I was like, that's so weird because I didn't ask for their birthday before I started dating them. It just happened to be that they were Leos. So when I actually looked into their birth charts more, I realized that they had the same top four placements in common, which I was already convinced at that point that astrology was real. But if I hadn't been convinced at that point, I would have been at that moment because that's crazy that they have four personal planets in common. And I dated both of them, and they're my only boyfriends ever.
Yeah, I feel like there's no way that's a coincidence. And I kind of had the same experience actually, except with Geminis. So
Mm,
I was married to a Gemini for a while and I dated several other Geminis and I just kept attracting them. So I feel like, there's definitely a pattern there. And that's not a coincidence. And sure enough, it's not. It's actually
mm,
explained through your birth chart. But yeah, so astrology is very powerful, and we could literally talk about it for so long. So, what should we start this with? I'll hand it over to Chase to uh, take the topic wherever you want to go with it.
we could talk about Chiron.
Okay, let's talk about Chiron. I know a lot about Chiron. So Chiron is an asteroid, and it represents the deepest wound that you carry, like on a soul level. So it's pretty key. Actually, the glyph is a key. It looks like a little key, and it's basically the key to your healing. So understanding your Chiron placement by house and by sign is so huge, and oftentimes it'll also explain why you were even drawn to astrology. Usually, when you're drawn to astrology, it's your soul that's drawing you to astrology because astrology is the language of the soul. So, Chiron is a great place to start when you're learning your birth chart because it represents where we're wounded, and basically, that wound kind of controls our life until we become conscious of it and heal it. So there are some astrologers who think that Chiron can't be healed and we're just permanently stuck with that wound, but I honestly think that Chiron can be healed. I feel that I've healed my own Chiron placement. I have Chiron in Cancer in the 11th house. Cancer is all about family, so it's basically the wound of family, and it manifested in the 11th house, which is about friendship, the community, and basically, I constantly attracted friends who hurt me the way that my family did with Chiron and Cancer in the 11th. But once I healed that by doing shadow work and uh, really believing that I was worthy of love and loving myself, I feel like I healed my Chiron wound and now I'm able to help others heal through astrology, which is very much also what the 11th house is about. So that's my story with Chiron. So, where's your Chiron, Chase?
The 10th house in Virgo.
Mm. So the 10th house usually represents the father, but it can represent the mother. It's basically the most dominant parent or the parent that had more authority over you. And it also represents your public reputation, your career, your legacy, and what you're remembered for. So with Chiron here, I feel like it could have given you like a father wound or even some wounding situations at work. But most often with Chiron here, the big picture is that they feel like they can never achieve enough. So it usually leads to becoming overly ambitious later on in life and achieving a lot of pretty impressive things to the public, but you just don't feel content and you feel like you could do better. And I think with Virgo as well, it's very similar. Whereas Virgo is very critical, self critical, and always feels like Virgo can do better. So I very much see that Chiron in the 10th house usually manifests as the wound of the father for that reason. Now, I know for you, I mean, was your dad pretty critical of you?
No, he was awesome.
Yeah, so I feel like most of the time it can even represent the mother in the 10th house, but overall it usually manifests as being overly ambitious because the 10th house is ruled by Capricorn, and Capricorn is about work and achievement, and it wants to leave a legacy. So Chiron
I don't
here
know.
can
I
kind
think that I have had a lot of situations where I was misunderstood and my intentions were interpreted to be more negative than they really were. So I
like
kind of
at
think that
work.
has something to no, like at church and stuff like that.
Hmm. Yeah, that makes sense. Because the 10th house also represents like your public image. So
Right.
the way the public reacts to you. So I guess that makes sense that it would manifest that way. But with Chiron, the way to heal it too is by utilizing the planet that it's making positive aspects to, and kind of balancing your Chiron wound with whatever planet it's making an opposition to as
If
well.
I remember correctly, it's trying my Lilith.
Oh, is it? Yeah. So with Lilith, Lilith is all about rebellion. It's about embracing your dark femininity. And that's basically about being your inner bad girl. And it also
So I
kind of
needed to
depends
embrace my
too.
inner bad girl.
Yeah,
That's how
so
I heal it.
embracing your inner bad girl. And I can see that because that would kind of make you like fearless and just not caring what people think and just
Right.
doing you can help you heal your Chiron wounds. I can totally see that for you.
My 29th degree Taurus Lilith.
Yeah, that's a pretty intense placement. Is that the only 29th degree that you have? No, you have a
No, I have like
few.
5.
That's crazy. The 29th degree is pretty intense. I mean, it's called the anaretic degree, and it creates this feeling of intensity and like you're running out of time.
Yeah, I feel
I
that
think,
way.
yeah, and everybody that I talk to that has this degree in their chart, just whatever planet or even angle, that's the same thing. They just feel like it's super intense and like they're constantly running out of time. I don't have this degree in my chart, but I can kind of, feel how it would make you feel because it's the last degree
Right.
before you move into a different sign. So it would make sense that it would feel like critical mass in a way.
Yeah, I feel like I have one of the most intense charts ever.
You do have a pretty cool chart, actually. I feel like that's why I kind of wanted to become friends with you. I look at so many charts, so when I see a chart like yours, I just know that this person probably has some cool stories, and it just seemed like you were interesting. And I think it was Jupiter in the first house too that got
Yeah.
me because I love Jupiter so much, especially Jupiter in Sagittarius, and I love Sagittarius energy. So not only do I get along with Sagittarius risings, which that's what you are, but Jupiter in the first house usually implies somebody who is just genuinely a good person and a kind-hearted person, and I felt that vibe from your chart very much. So
We
here we
should say our
are.
big 3.
So I am a Virgo rising. I'm an Aquarius sun and a Libra moon.
I'm a Capricorn sun, Scorpio moon, and Sagittarius rising.
Yep, that's us.
That's us.
I feel mostly like my sun, so much more than my rising or my moon. I think because maybe Aquarius is like the later sign of the three, so
Right.
it overpowers the others. What do you feel like the most?
Oh, I think about this so much and I just can't come to a conclusion because I feel very Capricorn, I feel very Scorpio, and I feel very Sagittarius.
I can see that for you. You're pretty complex. I do get the Sagittarius vibe the most, but I feel like
Right.
that's pretty common. But that's what the rising is there for. That's like the vibe you give off mostly to others, more so than you feel it, I think, because I think it's such an integral part of you that it's just there and it's always been there. So you don't necessarily always feel it, if that makes
The
sense.
the thing that convinced me to believe in astrology was I found out I was a Sagittarius rising and I Googled what that meant and I read the negative aspects of a Sagittarius rising. And I was like, that
You're like,
should
yep,
be.
that's me.
It's
That's
every
hilarious.
criticism I've ever gotten.
That's pretty funny.
It was
I
saying that, like,
do. I feel like a Virgo rising, but at the same time, I feel very Aquarius, but they're so different. But I do have the analytical skills and the critical skills, unfortunately, of Virgo rising, where I pick up on every little detail and every little flaw and everything around me. So I feel like it's kind of a curse, but it's a blessing when it comes to reading astrology charts, that's for sure.
something that has been kind of freeing for me is learning that, I have three different modalities, three different elements in my big three. And I feel like I was trying to condense myself into one personality, but I just have like three different, very different energies going on, and I should just embrace that. Whereas
That's
I
so
didn't know that.
true.
I
That's
didn't
so
know that before
true.
astrology. I was like,
See,
am I the
I
Sagittarius side or am I the Capricorn or the Scorpio side? Even though I didn't know the names, I was like, am I this serious, intense person or am I this fun, carefree person? The truth is that I'm both.
You're all of them. Exactly. It
Right.
just depends on, what you're doing or where you are, but you're all of them. And for me, it's way less complex, actually. I'm very airy. I'm an air sign sun, an air moon, and although I'm an Earth rising, it's ruled by Mercury. Virgo's ruled by
Right.
Mercury, so which has always kind of been an anomaly to me, but I basically just feel very airy and I'm always in my head. I'm constantly thinking, I'm constantly in my mind. So it totally makes sense for me. I kind of wish I was more diverse when it came to elements, but I'm
Right.
literally 50% air and 50% earth. I lack fire and I lack water. Actually, the only fire I have is my IC in Sagittarius, and the only water I have is my North Node in Pisces and Chiron, which technically aren't even planets, none of those. So I feel like
Yeah,
we're a good balance together.
all my personal planets are in earth or water, but I feel very air. But I only have my midheaven and my psyche in air.
I get why though, because of Jupiter in the first house and Sagittarius energy, although it's kind of like the air sign of the fire signs, if you think about it,
I
because it
also think
rules
it could have to do with
knowledge.
the 12th house to
Yeah,
action.
that too. The 12th house always scares me as an astrologer. I feel like it's
Huge
so
fan.
misinterpreted. Uh, I feel like you should tell us a little bit about what it feels like to have a 12th house stellium.
Okay, so I just started really critically thinking about what it is like to be a 12th houser because apparently it's a pretty unique experience. And any 12th housers out there can add their 2 cents in and feel and add if because I'm not sure what is being a Scorpio and what is being a 12th houser because my 12th house is in Scorpio and I have my moon, Venus, Pluto, and North Node in
North
there.
Node.
Yeah,
Yeah,
so
I
they're all
remember
sandwiched
that.
in together. So I feel like it's a very isolating experience, but like you don't mind it. You're like that's your comfort zone, and it's where you feel regenerized, but you also are feeling like you're on the outside looking in, and you want to be a part of what everyone else is doing, but there's just this like deep feeling of like you do not fit in, and it's not just like it's hard to explain because I don't want to be like, oh, I'm just so different, but like I guess it feels like other people think they're different or they're left out, but it's like, you really are. And it's like way more intense than what other people are dealing with.
I feel like you really can't explain it through words. I think the
No.
12th house rules things that can't be explained or grasped by the mind. And that's so hard for me as a Virgo because, as you know, Virgo's the
Oh,
complete
true.
opposite polarity as Pisces, which is the 12th house. So it's so difficult for me to comprehend something that you can't define because as a Virgo, we constantly want to label everything and analyze things and break it all down in our minds. So with the 12th house, I think that's why it scares me. I think it's because
Yeah, you
it's
can't
just
put it
so
down.
elusive.
Right.
It's so elusive and it's so Neptunian is the
But
word
I've,
for
over
it.
the years, had to, ascend into my rising sign and become this. And my midheaven is in Libra, so it's very relational. So I have, I'm a hairdresser, so I meet 10 new people a day. So, and it's a very intimate situation where you have this stranger come sit in your chair and you have to make them feel comfortable and you have to get to know them and you have to literally like touch their heads. So that's a skill that you have to have. You have to be
Do
good
you
with people if you're going to be doing
do you
that.
feel like you can absorb their thoughts when you're touching their head?
Uh, no, I don't. I do think I am very intuitive and I can feel what other people are feeling. Um, a lot of the
Yeah, I can
times,
see that with the
but
12th house for sure.
yeah, and there's just these times when I just no one's even saying or doing anything, but I just get hit with this wave of what they're feeling. And I don't know if that's the 12th house, but yeah, or if, I don't know, that's just
Totally.
being the Scorpio. I don't know.
I feel like that's totally the 12th house.
Yeah.
It's basically like an energetic sponge. You can feel your
Right.
way through it, you just can't think your way through it.
Like my
And
friend is very logical and I'll be like, that guy's in love with me. And she'll be like, why? Why are you saying that? And I was like, I just know it. And she'll be like, Chase, like you have no reason to believe that. And I was like, just trust me. They are.
I feel like you'd be pretty intuitive with 12th house placements. And also, Sagittarius risings in general are very intuitive because Sagittarius literally rules your intuition.
Right.
And then with Jupiter there as well, I feel like that supercharges your intuition. But the way I kind of view the 12th house is it's where you merge into oneness with the collective consciousness.
Wow.
And
Yeah, true.
it's where you basically, connect with people on an energetic level. So it can be very misunderstood, honestly. I feel like many astrologers misunderstand this house because many people label it as like isolation or
Right.
spirituality, but it's so much deeper than that. Although it does include those things, it's just so much deeper than that. And it really is where you experience those things that you can't label, that the mind cannot grasp. It's very abstract.
And I think that goes along with my North Node in Midheaven because Scorpio and Libra are very relational. Like Libra is all about relationships, but Scorpio is all about deep soul level. And then you said the thing
Yeah,
about the oneness in the 12th house, like with the collective, and that just all goes together, I feel like.
that's so true. Scorpio and Sagittarius are so different. And also, do you notice how every sign is followed by a sign that has its complete opposite traits? Like
Right.
Aries is so go and action oriented, ruled by Mars. Then comes
Wow,
Taurus,
yeah.
ruled by Venus, way more slow. Gemini is extremely mental and mercurial, whereas Cancer is extremely emotional and it really flip flops that way. And it's the same with Libra and Scorpio. Libra is very much avoiding conflict and harmonious and can be kind of shallow and kind of superficial, or they like to keep the peace, whereas Scorpio
Right, right,
really
right.
demands truth and depth, and it feels very comfortable with confrontation and the intensities of life in general. So, and it's almost like the later you get in the zodiac, the more extreme the polarities are between the signs.
True.
Because
Yeah,
even
and it's so
Aquarius
weird.
and Pisces. No, go ahead.
Like if my brother was born 16 hours earlier, he would have been a Sagittarius sun.
Oh, that's crazy. He's on a cusp. He's a
Yeah,
cusper.
he's
That's
literally a zero
awesome.
degree sun.
Did he go through life knowing he was wait, what is he? A
He's a
Capricorn?
Capricorn like me, and he's a Sagittarius
You're
rising like
both
me.
Capricorn and you're both Sagittarius risings. It's crazy.
Yes. Isn't that
That's
crazy?
awesome.
And we were born a minute apart. He was born at 7:23 and I was born at 7:24, but he was born 3 years after me.
Okay, that's even crazier. The
I
time
told my
thing.
mom that and she was like, "I had a system. I don't know what to say."
That's so awesome. I mean, that's kind of proof that astrology is real right there. But I do see that pretty often, just not that similar. But I have seen siblings who have the same rising sign or, the same sign even, but down to the minute, that's pretty crazy. That's pretty mind blowing.
It's literally ridiculous. I think about it all the time because I feel like there has to be like a meaning to it all.
Yeah, seriously. I mean, my husband and my son have the same birthday. They have the same sun at the same degree and the same moon, even. The moon one is pretty crazy because what are
Right.
the odds of having the
What are the
same moon?
odds?
And it's off by a degree. My husband's moon is at the 28th degree of Cancer, and my son is the 29th degree. So
Whoa.
he's basically his mini me, and they look exactly alike too. But it's pretty common in families, I think. And there are certain placements too that are passed down through the generations, which always blows my mind too.
Yeah. Like my dad is an Aquarius sun, and my brother has a ton of Aquarius placements, and my mom is a Scorpio rising, and I have a ton of Scorpio placements.
Scorpio, yeah. Yeah, my mom's a Taurus and I have a Taurus Mars, and my dad's a Libra and I'm a Libra moon. So,
Yes,
also,
so
most of my degrees are Libra and Taurus degrees, which I noticed recently actually. I was like, why do I have so many Libra and Taurus degrees? Sure enough, it's because of my parents. So,
to your
it's
parents.
it's so crazy how deep you could go with astrology. There's just so much to learn about and so much to know. It's never ending and it's so complex. And it really mirrors the cosmos exactly because of how complex it is.
Yeah, and I think that's a good place to end.
Yeah, for sure. I feel like this is a good first episode, so hopefully we'll have our microphones, or I'll have my
Yes,
microphone working
yes,
by the next episode.
yeah. So thank you guys for listening in and let us know what else we should talk about. And we'll see you next time.
See you next time, guys.
All right, bye.
Bye.